Clip 1. The handling of radiological objects in deep debris B25 boxes near 1321 Westside Drive inside the Westside Solid Waste Disposal Area was presented by Chris YANTOS, U.S. Navy Project Manager for Site 12 Radiation Cleanup on Treasure Island. On Tuesday, October 20, 2015, the U.S. Navy updated its radiation cleanup of Treasure Island, San Francisco for the Restoration Advisory Board RAB meeting number 179. This video was shot and uploaded to YouTube by Carol Harvey, investigative journalist, reporting on Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay on Monday, July 15, 2024.
Chris Yantos. Mr. Chris Yantos is on the Navy team. He's the project manager. We're doing essentially tonight an update again on Site 12. Site 12 is the site at the northern part of Treasure Island. And we've been doing a lot of field work. We've made a lot of great progress in the last 60 days, and we owe the Restoration Advisory Board and the community an update on everything that we've been doing in the area. Again, there's been a lot of major progress made, which I think is great news. And Mr. Chris Yantos is here to present that tonight. Please hold your questions, RAB members and community members, please hold your questions to the Q&A period after Mr. Yantos has finished his presentation, please, out of respect for the presenter, so that he can complete his presentation, and then we'll take questions and answers. And we will abide by the new operating procedures as voted upon by the RAB. Mr. Yantos.
Thanks, Keith. Okay. Good evening, everybody. As Keith noted, we are presenting again the Site 12 fieldwork, specifically the 3 disposal areas that we talked about in August. And this time we brought a map with us, so I'm going to be referring to this map quite often. This is our project-specific map that really does outline a number of things, and so I'll refer to that. So same team, same contractor, same project management team. The only area that we're really going to highlight tonight that's a little bit of an update beyond what we've been presented in the past is West Side. So there's a disposal area West Side, and I'll get to that towards the end of the project, or end of the presentation. So let's go to the outline here. So as we noted, the 3 real distinct areas for this presentation, for this project rather, are the disposal areas, 3 disposal areas. So we have North Point, Bayside, and West Side. This is Site 32 processing area, this is a Bigelow Court processing area, and this is a stockpile area. But we're going to highlight the progress that we've made in these 3 disposal areas. We're also going to cover low-level rad waste, or low-level rad objects. We do refer to them occasionally as LLROs. I'll try to call them rad objects. Give you an update on how many of those we've found and where. Okay, West Side. So since August, this is where we've focused the majority of our work, or new work anyways. So some interesting things going on here in the timeline. Remember, West Side was not completed during the 2007 work. So what we're coming back to do now is to finish that excavation and all of its, all the rad surveys. So we have portions of this disposal area that are not completely backfilled. So they were left at a 4-foot depth. And then we have 2 areas on the south and north end that were backfilled that we're going to go back and re-excavate those, much like we did in North Point and Bayside. I'll get into that figure in a minute. A couple other interesting activities at Bayside, or at West Side, is a deep burial area, very close to building 1321. I have another slide here that I'll get into detail on that. But this is a deeper waste area. So typically we only dig to 4 feet. In that area we're going to dig to 10 feet. We also have radiological waste storage containers. These are a few 6-foot yellow boxes that we have radiological waste stored in, and so we are sorting those boxes. And again, I have another slide that will detail that. So moving forward. So here's a detail of the area that I was talking about that was previously excavated. So this is in process, I like to call it, so it's has not been backfilled. This is left open, the excavation's open. These are the previous backfilled areas, so this doesn't have any evidence of digging at the moment, but we will go back and dig those. So this is going to be considered all one solid waste disposal area that we will obtain free release. Let me go back to that slide. And the area that I mentioned before, the deep buried waste area is right here. So this is a 60 by 60, roughly 60 by 60 grid, going down to about 10 feet. And so we're going to take kind of a unique approach to that. And again, I'll show you that in another slide. So what does it look like out there right now? This is what you would see. A 4-foot excavation. This is a sidewall of one of the previous former buildings. This is the concrete foundation. Same thing here. This is a former building pad. So one of the first activities we're going to do, well, currently we're sorting the radiological waste containers. As soon as we're done with that, we're going to remove these concrete foundations as we did in the other solid waste disposal areas, and then begin the digging of this material that's underneath. So the process will continue to be the same as soon as we're done with these waste containers. Next slide. Okay, so here's an overview. So the question comes up: why was this the selected area for a particularly deep waste burial area? It's because there was a former runway here in the 1940s, and it was common practice by the military to dispose of items at the end of a runway because people didn't inhabit the end of a runway, and people didn't typically hang out at the end of a runway. So this was a very typical practice to dispose of items that were out here. So that's basically the overlay of our solid waste disposal area with the former runway location. So it gives you an idea of why is it there. Okay, so due to the depth of that particular location and the underwater conditions and the silty sand that we find out there, it poses difficulties for excavating this material. We're going down to 10 feet. So this is the engineering that we introduced to the area. We drive these vertical rails in a box formation, and then we slide in this panel shoring. And what this does is hold back the sidewalls, typical shoring in a trench situation, to hold back the sidewalls so that we can surgically pinpoint our excavations, so that we're a little more accurate in where we're chasing the rad contamination. So we're going down to 10 feet. These panels will move as we advance the excavation. So as we dig deeper, these panels will be dropped down in to the excavation, and we can collect samples at the bottom with much more ease. So this is, you may have seen these delivered in the recent time. I'll give you an idea of what we're doing out there. Next. Okay, right now, today, we are in the process of sorting these radiological waste storage containers. We sometimes refer to them as B25 boxes. B25s are simply a model name for this storage container. They literally are just a simple container that was filled in 2007 when we were previously excavating in that 1321 deep burial area. So the material that's in here came previously from that 1321 area. So these waste storage containers were sealed in 2007. We have opened them, de-watered them. There were pockets of water inside here because, of course, the material came from underwater. It was placed at that time directly from an excavator bucket into these boxes. So the first step was to de-water them. And then we needed to sort them. The reason we needed to sort them is because there was munitions, potential munitions, mixed in with our radiological waste. So we have to open these up, we have to sort them piece by piece, literally combing with small instruments, hand instruments, picking out radiological objects and picking out munitions. Separating those two waste streams because they cannot be disposed of together. That's a regulation. We can't dispose of those two things together. So we have to separate them. Next slide. So in order, we have erected a sorting and screening tent. And so this sorting and screening tent allows us to sort the material at the same time keeping workers and nearby residents and anybody in the area safe. So this is a sealed tent. It is contained. It contains all air. It has negative pressure, so no air goes out of this tent without being filtered. Workers inside do work under respirator and with coveralls on. So this is a sorting tent where all of the munitions are separated from the rad waste. Yeah, I think that's basically the explanation for that tent. Go ahead. Some pictures inside. Here's a look through the viewing plastic or the viewing window. Workers in coveralls. We have some equipment. This is the main piece of equipment. This is the only thing contaminated inside that tent. We dump the soil onto this table, sort the soil, pull out the rad objects. The material goes back into a B25 box. That B25 box will be shipped off at a later date. Rad objects will be placed with our other rad objects, shipped off at a later date. And any munitions scrap, which we have not found to date, but if in the event there was, that would be shipped off as a third waste disposal. Okay, moving on. Low-level rad objects. So how many rad objects have we found to date? Just under 700. That number has actually climbed as of today. This presentation was put together a week ago, so we are now totaling over 700. I don't have the exact number, but when this presentation was put together last week, we had 699. As I mentioned, 88 from the two previous solid waste disposal areas. And then we have 10 so far coming out of West Side, which is mainly the boxes. That number, I know, has climbed to 50 now, 50. So, and that number is come from right about here, 1321. Okay. Oh, one other item I want to mention here. So, when in August we had some questions about the rad objects and how do we manage them. I want to give a snapshot here that what this is a few rows of the tracking sheet. Of course, this tracking sheet is much longer because we have 700 items, but this gives you an idea of how we track these items. They're given a unique identifying number. There's a description, detail of where they're found, the activity on them. And this is all the information that is required for disposal. So this really gives us a tight control on all of the rad objects, every rad object that we have on site. This information is then passed off to the waste broker, and then they're able to dispose of it. Just an example of how in the field we categorize or identify and label these rad objects. So this is data that's gathered in the field. We have on-contact readings. We have readings at a foot. Gives a description of what they are. Gives a unique number, and then these are packaged, sent off to our storage area. And then, of course, an exclusion zone around that. All the items are radium 226 so far. As I mentioned before, there's no surprises with radionuclides.